my channel. Today we're going to be diving into the world of APIs with a special focus on the TON API, a powerful tool for building decentralized apps on the open network. Now, what's an API? So an API stands for Application Program Interface. Think of it as a middleman that lets different software applications talk to each other. It defines a set of rules and tools like functions and endpoints that developers use to request data or perform actions without needing to understand the back-end complexity. So you can liken this to a waiter at a restaurant. So you come into a restaurant and you make an order through the waiter, and the waiter delivers it to the kitchen, which is the back end. So you can say that the waiter is an API for that particular interaction between you and the back end, which is the chef that prepares the meal. So what does an API do? Basically, it simplifies development by providing pre-built solution. For example, when you use a weather app, it pulls data from a server via an API, or maybe when you log into a website like Google or whatever website. Basically, that's an API at work authenticating you. APIs are everywhere. They are used for our day-to-day functions, apps on the blockchain and off the blockchain. Now, let's talk about blockchain API. Now, these blockchain APIs lets developers interact with blockchain network, like fetching transaction data or deploying smart contract. A great example is the TON API, which is part of the open network. Now, you can use TON API to create a lot of amazing projects, like for example, a bot that tracks wallets, or bots that send push notification via TON Keeper. These are the various examples of use of an API, and the most popular, which is an explorer. Now, we're using TON API, and you know that TON API basically stands out because of its Telegram integration and lightweight design. TON API isn't like your regular API. They basically provide a streamlined experience between transitions and callback of data. So now let's go ahead and get our TON API. So we're going to head over to tonapi.io, and then we're going to open that up. So here is the website. So you can see TON API, TON Developer Tools powers a blockchain solution with TON API. So basically, TON API provides HTTP based access to the TON blockchain, offering endpoints to fetch data, send transactions, and more. It is very developer friendly with tools like SDK and webhook to this streamline workflow. Now, how do we get our API? Let's dive in. So now, we are on the way to get our API. And here we are, the TON console dashboard. So all we need to do is go at the top left, click our TON API, click our API key. Since we're using a free API, I've created 2 API keys in the past, and basically all I need to do is tap on the create API, and then I name my API, let's say Jetons create, and just like that I've gotten my API. This is an API key which allows you to call an API, call information from the blockchain. Now, before we get started, this is the TON API documentation, and you can get it basically by clicking on here. So you click the documentation, and then it opens up the documentation panel where you can see details about TON API. You can see the about, you can see the authorization. Now, basically, we all know about TON API. So the authorization basically is telling you that all the methods are available without authentication or authorization. But to authorize your request, you're going to need your API key, and you're going to need to call the API key function by using the bearer as written below. While using any API, there are limits, and the rate limit basically for a free API is 0.24 requests per second, and for other plans which you can choose from, there are different tiers. So if you are paying for 20 requests per second, that is basically what you're going to get. In case if you're wondering what REST API is and what it is used for, so REST API basically is a standard web API that uses HTTP, for example, to fetch or send data, like getting a user's profile, updating in particular order on the API. So next we have the streaming API. So as the name calls, basically it sends real-time data continuously for like live updates, like you want to get update for a token, social media feeds, and whatnot. Webhooks API basically are servers that send data to your app when something happens. So whenever you receive money on your TONAPI wallet, it is because of the Webhooks API. So basically, it gives you notification on instant transaction. The software development kit, otherwise known as the SDK, are tools or libraries used to build app faster. Now we can use it to speed up coding. And then we have our Swagger, which can be known as Open API. It's basically used to document and test REST API because it auto-generates API docs and then it tries endpoint lives over and over again. Building on Ton ecosystem is quite easy using an API. I had built a wallet checker and I will run you guys through the code of the wallet checker, how I used an API in it, and what I aim to achieve through the code. Here is the code. So basically, this just fetches the transaction of a wallet, the balance of a wallet, and a few key details using API. So I do not need to go and start looking for such information on the back end of a particular work. Now, let us examine the code. We are running this code on the JavaScript. The first line of code, const tonweb require open bracket tonweb, is importing the tonweb JavaScript library. It is a wrapper for interacting with Ton blockchain API easily. Now, this is the first step in using an API, and then the second function also does something similar. Here, you create an instance of TONWeb using the HTTP provider, basically connecting to Ton's public API hosted by toncenter.com. Here is the line where you connect the Ton blockchain using their API. These first two parts of the code will basically give your code direction as to where to get data from, what API to call the data from, and assign given libraries to each one. Here is the Ton wallet address I want to check. So I'm calling the wallet address and the information from the blockchain using an API. You can replace it with any valid Ton mainnet address. The assign function lets you use await without defining a separate function. What this does is it uses an immediately invoked assign function expression to run everything inside it. Means no need to use a separate function to divide each individual value. The get balance function, what it does is to fetch the wallet balance in nanoton, which are the tiny units, and then convert it to regular ton using the second part of the code, tonweb.utils. So now basically where our API comes into place here is in the ton.getBalance, open bracket wallet address close bracket. That is where we are using the API. So we are calling the information from the API. Next, we have the display last transaction information. Now, when with the previous function, when the transactions are called, this code would display the last transaction that is there, the last active transaction with the timestamp, and then the last transaction hash. This code shows if it's an outgoing transaction or an incoming transaction, or neither. Based on the transaction type, it's going to show you the details of the transaction. Lastly, we have the error handling. In case if something goes wrong, let's say we input an invalid address, API error, or no internet, we'll receive a friendly message. Here is the preview of my code. I've put everything together in a nice little script and I am going to run it for you guys using the command prompt. So let's go. I've opened up my command prompt and I will change the directory to the Ton wallet checker directory that I created. So I've changed the directory successfully. So I'll run node wallet checker.js, which is the name of the script that I wrote.
Hello guys, thank you for dropping by my YouTube channel.
Yay, our code works.
Share
As a beginner, this is quite impressive. So here we can see the current balance, the transaction returned, which is 5. Remember, we can't go above a certain amount of transaction or calling a certain amount of transaction from the API due to the fact that there is rate limiting. So you can see every other transaction, the last active transaction, the last transaction hash, where the funds was received from, and the received value of the last funds that entered this wallet. Amazing, right? Guess what I did next? I wrote a script.js code with all these parameters and more to add some amazing features, and then I made a responsive web page in which you can input your wallet address and then get back its equivalent. In the script.js, we have our const tonweb new tonweb, which, as we have highlighted earlier, connects this script to the ton library. And here is the body of the code. We can see the assign function. We can see every other function that was used in the previous. And here we can see the const JSON res. Basically what this does is fetches the JSONs from a wallet address. JSONs on the Ton ecosystem are tokens, so their name are JSONs. We will then run this on our browser, and yeah, this is the output. Our Ton wallet checker is live. So you just input the wallet address. Let's go get one quickly from Ton viewer. A random wallet address. We'll copy, head over to Ton wallet checker, and then we'll paste it in, and then we'll click check wallet, and voila, it gets the information from the wallet address. As you can see, the balance, the last transaction, last active, received, and the last information, every other information. Now we'll take this wallet address back to our initial code, our wallet checker, and then we place it in here, and then we'll place the wallet, and then we'll save the code, and then we'll run it in our command prompt. And yes, node wallet checker.js. Here it gives the output of the code, the same parameters that were set. So that is it. As easy as that. Using the Ton API is very easy. You too can build. And that's a wrap for today. Today we covered what APIs are, how to get your Ton API key, made real calls, and built a simple wallet checker all live. Dive deeper at docs.ton.org and start building.